UCF fans are upset. Don't tell me what to do with my tickets.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making Locked On UCF your first listen of every day. Joining me for the first word on this topic from the last word on sports is my good friend, Andrew Gluchov. Andrew, I turned on my Twitter today, and UCF fans were in uproar over emails they were getting from the administration about reselling their tickets on the secondary market. I'm going to let you get into this, but prominent UCF fans, people who have held tickets, season tickets for decades, are saying they're getting emails from admin saying, look, you will show a lot of activity on the secondary market, and if this keeps up, we may revoke your season ticket privileges. For a team trying to drum up support right now, this is a significant misstep, is it not?
This is a very bad misstep.
What's going on?
How to win friends and influence people. So, yeah, this came down the pipe earlier today. A number of people between on Twitter and Facebook and other social medias have been posting up in arms, irate over these emails they're getting from the school about their tickets. And this is in regards to people who didn't get to go to many games. They sold their most of their tickets. And I know a number of these people that are posting about it. And they're not brokers. They're not like scalpers. They're fans. They're alums. They don't live in the area. It makes them hard to go to these games, but they still buy season tickets. They support the program. I was a season ticket for 10 years. And man, I would be, I live a few hours away from campus. I would be irate if I received an email like this. Let me read certain parts of this. X name, based on your resale or transfer activity during the 2024 football season, your account has been identified as having high secondary market activity.
Yep.
To maintain the integrity in the priority point system and seat relocation process, your account will not be eligible for seat relocation for the 2025 season. So there's the first thing. They're already saying like, yeah, because of what you did last year, we're not going to let you upgrade or move your seats around. And then they continue going down, talking about continued. They encourage season ticket members to resell or transfer tickets through their account manager page if they're unable to, attend the event. However, to ensure a fair and enjoyable experience for season ticket members, UCF Athletic Association strictly prohibits secondary market activities that can undermine the value and integrity of season tickets. Here's the thing. They talk about this includes, but it's not limited to. And that's in the email. So I did a little bit of, I looked back. I looked at their ticket sale and ticket broker policies.
Okay.
And this is what they said. I don't know how new this is because they didn't specify when this was moved into place, but obviously it's here today. They say basically same idea of the prevent secondary activities, but UCF Athletics reserves the right to monitor ticket activity, including ticket resale, ticket transfers, and ticket usage. Accounts exhibiting high secondary market activity may be subject to the loss of season ticket discounts, loss of ticket renewal opportunities, or have their ticket order canceled. And they talked about how UCF prohibits any secondary activity that is detrimental to the marketplace, but they don't fully define what is detrimental to the marketplace.
Yeah. I don't understand. So first and foremost, if I buy tickets, what I do with my tickets should be my business.
It's your business.
Yeah, it should be my
business.
business.
Bought it. You own that ticket.
Now, it'd be one thing if season tickets went on sale and someone was buying season tickets in mass and then reselling them on the secondary market. I think that would be a clear violation of this policy. And I could see how something like that would be bad. Obviously, you have the ticket resellers like Vivid and Ticketmaster and StubHub that do this already, but they have licensing agreements with the universities to do so. And they're trying to prevent people from buying up seats that may ultimately be empty. But if I think it's a good thing for the program that if I'm an alum and I don't live in the area, I'm still buying season tickets and then making sure that somebody gets the ticket to fill the seat come game time. I'm trying to understand where the downside is. And it feels like this was a policy designed for people truly taking advantage of the system that is filtering down to normal alum who just buy season tickets every year.
I want to give us a comparison. Let's look at the University of Florida that has a policy slightly similar, but notice the terminology that they use is different. It's a little more targeted. This is the University of Florida. The UAA prohibits the purchase and resale of tickets by ticket brokers. Ticket brokers are defined as account holders who purchase tickets with the primary intent of reselling their tickets. Orders placed by suspected ticket brokers or account holders who have a resale history consistent with that of a ticket broker are subject to cancellation. So they're kind of boxing in the idea of the broker. Now, UCF is made it more wide open. They actually are just saying prohibits any secondary activity that is detrimental to the marketplace. You know what's detrimental to potentially detrimental to the marketplace? Undercutting it. They don't specify that that's not part of it. So, last year when UCF was, towards the end of the season, people couldn't give away tickets because no one wanted to go see such a bad product. So it can be viewed as detrimental to the marketplace that someone is selling their ticket at way below market value just to get anything for it. And with this policy in place, those people could be UCF could go after those people. That's not what the University of Florida's policy, because ticket brokers don't undercut the market. That's not what a broker does.
Now, let me pause here. I just want to read some of the responses to this email that went out. UCF alum Richard Hornsby said, "I've given my season tickets to my father-in-law every year for Christmas, and I appealed explaining this to them. This was my response to their appeal denial. He emailed and said, 'This is absolute nonsense. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Telling me I should tell my father-in-law to buy his own tickets rather than let me pay for them after he paid for my wife's tuition to UCF is outrageous and greedy. The athletic department disgusts me. If my father-in-law didn't enjoy attending the games so much, I would cancel altogether.' UCF Mike says, 'Who the F are they even kidding? Like, I'm making money off the tickets. I couldn't even give away seats for a top 25 BYU game on homecoming.' Terry Mahajaner, get a effing clue, bro. You guys have lost your minds." And Sidelines UCF says, "Well, they came for me too. I guess I should stop buying extra season tickets to give away." Now, let me tell you something. As somebody, famously, I do the War Report. We cover Auburn. We buy season tickets every year for Auburn games. We renew our season tickets and we give them away to our listeners. If Auburn came after me and said, you shouldn't be doing that, what the heck, man? I'm putting butts in seats for games.
Yeah, and I want to tell you, Mike is a stand-up guy. He's really cool. He is not a broker or anything. He is a fan through and through.
He's money on this.
Yeah, no, he's an awesome guy. I think the world of him. But I remember there were times like I've seen him post online like, "Hey, I've got these seats. I'm trying to sell them, and no one's taking them. No one wanted to go or any of that." It's not like he was undercutting the market or anything. He first tried to, sell them for market value. That's fair. And then it just got, lower and lower to the point where it's like he couldn't even give them away because no one wants to go see the product. But let me finish the rest of the email that he and other fans received. And this is just the like punch to the gut.
Yeah.
So let's see. Continued high resale activity may result in the loss of season ticket discounts if applicable, or the forfeiture of senior ticket renewal rights. And then it gives a deadline of, later this month. If you feel that you've been misidentified and you appeal. The last paragraph, though, we truly appreciate our out-of-town supporters who purchase season tickets to back UCF athletics. With the season ticket waitlist now in the thousands, we encourage you to continue your support by making a gift to the Charge On Fund, ensuring UC Athletics remain strong and successful. That's the rub right there. They're trying to push out of-towners who can't regularly make the games, but expect them to still give them money. I mean,
This,
WTF, mate? I mean, really, like,
yeah,
what the heck?
this is such
Like,
a
oh,
corporate misstep, Andrew. This
oh,
smells of like a corporate misstep. The language is really out of touch, and obviously they're going to get a lot of feedback from this email.
and it
And
won't be good.
yeah, it's not going to be
It
good.
won't be good.
Like a lot of expletive written responses to this. If you're UCF, you're trying to drum up support for football right now. You've rehired Scott Frost. You can't do things like this, right? You
There's one
cannot
other thing
feel
about it.
enthusiasm.
There's one other thing. They sent this after the renewal deadline.
Yeah, that's
I mean, that's even worse. Is like you send this, people can then think about, do I really want to renew my tickets or not? They sent this afterwards. And it's like, so that's almost like entrapment.
Yeah.
You know, you set them up to fail.
I'll tell you this.
And this is really uncool.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, right? I'm all in favor of consumers talking with their dollar, right? There's no better way to send a message to the powers that be that, like, look, you don't just get my money and send and do things like this. So yes, you can jeopardize whether I buy season tickets or not. And if you do things like this, it just feels like this was not a well thought out email campaign or whatever you want to call this. The backlash has been swift. It has condemned this, and people are not happy about it. If you're UCF, you have to get it together. We have to move on. But last word, Andrew. How do you fix this if you're UCF?
Well, I mean, you definitely have to backtrack and just flat out fall on the sword. Say, hey, due to the fan response, we're gonna rescind this for this year because you waited too long to throw this letter out there. Okay, you can institute this next year. People are now aware, but you can't do it after a renewal deadline. And this hits me personally because I was a season ticket holder. I bought extra tickets and would sell them because that was an investment I was making into the school and something to grow into when at the time I didn't have kids, but when my kid was old enough to be able to go to games as well, I mean, that you can't punish fans for investing in the program, getting good seats, continuing to donate and whatnot, just because they sell on the secondary market and, oh God, an opponent buys a ticket, Lord forbid, okay. So you have demand of more season tickets coming. Okay. Well, you've got some major capital projects on, going on. Those people could still buy season tickets or single game tickets or the second, on the secondary market or when single game tickets come out. And when you're done with your first capital project with the expansion of Roth Tower, you know what? Then you start looking into expanding the stadium if you have enough demand. But to basically find a way to kick out longtime supporters who've been there probably since before the stadium was built. I mean, this is how to turn off generational fans, because those are the people who are having kids that are getting old enough to want to go to UCF, and they're going to push them. And you screw up enough, they're going to push them somewhere else, and they're not going to invest in your program anymore.
Yeah, look, not a good off-season storyline, kind of a silly off-season storyline, and honestly, just a silly misstep. Hopefully they make amends quickly. But look, spring ball is around the corner, so maybe I hope nobody gets an email about reselling their tickets to the spring game. But look, UCF has to prepare for spring ball. We're going to talk about what that looks like here right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com, America's #1 sports book for all your betting needs. Look, the NBA is here, guys, and there's going to be lots of great action. The NCAA tournament is on and popping so far this offseason. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off, or you want to bet a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your bets into a same game parlay. I have hit it big on some parlays on FanDuel. I can tell you it's a lot of fun. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Spring ball is here. Almost.
It's almost.
Look, it's with the moving of signing day really to December, and I say that because signing day is still here, but 98% of classes are signed in December now. There's very little action on that second signing day in February. Used to be a big event. We're turning our attention to the start of spring practice a lot earlier than we normally would. So signing day usually was the second Wednesday in February. We passed that. And so now we're looking at starting spring ball. UCF is set to start spring ball. Coaches are making statements in the media about, the ad. We saw a clip of Jimmy Beal talking about, goals and attitude and culture in the running back room. If you're UCF and you're Scott Frost, what's your number one goal this spring, Andrew? For me, it has to be establishing an offensive identity. I think too many times last year, outside of RJ Harvey, you didn't have an identity. You didn't have an identity on offense, and you were one-dimensional, and you were easy to defend. And teams, if they could slow down your run game, they could stop you completely from being effective offensively. You turned to your four-string quarterback at some point last spring, just searching for a spark in the passing game. You've hired former quarterback McKenzie Milton to come onto this thing and try to pump some life into the passing game. I think it has to be about establishing an offensive identity.
I'm going to go with, creating the culture. And kind of like what Coach Beal said, and part of that is also evaluating your talent. A lot of overhaul on this team, over 20 players out, over 20 players in. So you have a lot of new faces that you're going to have to identify, see what they can do. As Coach Frost has said, we're going to, we'll go fast. We'll slow it down. We're not going to have any set, style at the moment. It's basically going to be, what kind of talent do we have and what can we do with it? And I think that's what this spring ball is going to be about, is assessing what's there and building the culture to want to work and improve and buy in. He has to create buy-in because none of these players were there the last time he's there. So he's a new face, essentially.
Right.
Fans may know him and some, people from around the program may know him from his first stint. Other than that, he's brand new. So, you got a lot of coaches who've worked with him, growing number of analysts and other coaches that have worked with him before and buy into what he does and how he does it. But now they have to sell it to the players and build that circle of trust. And that'll help with the development, because we know football's a mental sport. 90% of the time the play's already decided before it ever starts. If you're mentally out of it, you're done. You're not going to make it. So it's about establishing that level of trust to be able to build that mental aspect of the game while evaluating the physical aspect to see what you can do. What kind of offense can you generate? Do you have the talent to run the fast offense that Frost likes to run? Do you have enough depth to be able to rotate players as needed to handle this? Do you have enough defensive depth to handle, running a fast offense that's going to put more stress on that defense? Do you have to slow it down a bit so they give them an adequate rest? That's all stuff that's going to be figured out during the spring, because they're going to have to build a workable playbook based on that, so they can, they can push and then they can pull back. But out the gate, they don't have it yet.
Yeah, really interested to see if Scott Frost is going to own play calling. Obviously, this was an ongoing storyline with Gus Malzahn. Is he calling plays? Is he not calling plays? He turned it over at one point last season. If you're Scott Frost, you're an amazing play caller. However,
you're calling plays. If you're Scott Frost, you're calling plays.
But you want to leave room for your, for your offensive coordinator and those guys to grow in that position too. So seeing how he manages that, I think is going to be really important this spring. Ultimately, you got to go whatever process produces results quickly. So you can't afford to get in a tug of war over who's calling plays or who's not, right? I think it's most important that whatever you choose to do, it works and it works fast. But I think if you're Scott Frost, like I said, you don't overthink this one. You don't overcook this one. You do what's worked for you your entire career. And I think you're right. I think he owns that process. Last word on this before we move on.
I think he's got his work cut out for him. This is a team that lost a lot of top end talent and is looking to redefine itself. And it's a good opportunity to be able to come back in and prove, because Scott Frost has something to prove here. He has to prove that Nebraska was a fluke of environment, that it's a has-been program. His style doesn't work with Midwestern talent, in that area, like those kind of players didn't really, that he needed, didn't really want to go to Nebraska. He can prove them wrong by saying, we can build this again in Orlando, where you have the Florida speed, you can get the California West Coast talent out there, and it's a very attractive place. So he's got something to prove that otherwise, if he fails in Orlando, it just proves the doubters wrong. Because if you look around, the Athletic just came out with grades. Stu Mandel gave UCF a D on their hire of Scott Frost. So Frost has something to prove.
Really?
Yeah. Scott Frost has something to prove regarding that Nebraska was a fluke, because that's currently what everyone is thinking about him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. A D, wow. I don't know. I think that's. I get that he has something to prove.
I'm not making. I don't agree with it. I would have bumped it up a little bit, but I understand where he's coming from that, because
sure,
he failed in Nebraska. No one wanted him after that, and then UCF basically bid against themselves to get him to come back. But we also know there was more to the story than just that. So on the inside, UCF fans love the hire because of the nostalgia. On the outside, they see Nebraska and it doesn't look attractive. So he's got something to prove. And I can see him taking a very methodical approach to try to salvage as many wins as possible to be able to build that up. He's going to have to slow build this. It's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, part of building it quickly is finding out who your quarterback is, and sorting that out in the spring is going to be really important. Who's going to be the next quarterback of the UCF Knights? Next on Locked On UCF. Taven Jackson, Dylan Riss, Cam Fancher. Who's it going to be? Who are they going to choose? If I were a betting man, I would bet on Taven Jackson.
I would also bet on Taven Jackson. He's a guy who more fits the system that Frost is probably going to want to run. Risk is not a bad quarterback. He needs work. He needs development. And that's not to say that he can't rise up in the offseason and shock the world. But as we saw this past year, he had the first start. No one had any film on him. It was a space game. Weird things happened, and everything just locked into place.
Yeah.
But as more film came out, he got exposed, and his productivity went further and further down. And I don't think it's a result of everyone around him. I think it was his. He's a redshirt freshman. He's still young. He's still learning, and he was buried in the depth charts early.
Yeah, he didn't get a lot of work with the first team for most of the year. I mean, remember being elevated from fourth team to first string in season is kind of crazy. And so
understatement.
Getting an offseason to work and seriously compete for the job, I think it's going to do wonders for Dylan Riss. I think we saw flashes of what his talent could be. So I'm not writing him off. But like I said, if I'm a betting man, I'm thinking it's Taven Jackson. How important do you think it is that Scott Frost has a starter at the end of spring practice? This is a question that we deal with. I cover a lot of teams. I talk about, spring practice all the time when it comes to quarterbacks. And this is, is it better for UCF that you have a clear front runner at least at the end of spring going into fall camp, or do you stretch this thing out and you keep the competition going into the summer to keep these guys engaged in the QB competition?
Well, I think it depends on how they do. Assuming that they're both okay, stretch it out. You don't have to have a starter at this point. Yeah, especially because this is a whole new team. So you know what? Stretch it out a little bit. Let people guess. Keep them guessing a little bit. I don't think there's any real advantage of having a set starter. You're going to have opportunities to run with the ones, to run with the twos, move them around. Remember, you're still evaluating talent. It's not just the quarterbacks you're evaluating. You got to evaluate the wide receivers, the running backs, the offensive line. You need to change the combination. So you're going to be moving a lot of things around. So having the quarterbacks move between 1 and 2 is not necessarily a bad thing. It's, because you're looking for the best chemistry, and it's not set in stone where the best chemistry is going to come from.
Yes.
So you may have some offensive linemen that do well and that can be a little versatile, that work better with one quarterback, and maybe a different group that works better with another quarterback. So, I expect this to stretch out a little bit, unless it's really one-sided. If it's really one-sided, then you can name one and just run with it. But I don't see a benefit in doing that unless it's painfully obvious who the better guy is.
Yeah, look, I think one of the worst things could happen is that there's no competition, because what it's going to mean is that you might not have a backup, right? Like you may have your guy, but so many times we've seen at the major college level, teams have had to turn to their second string QB for meaningful time during the season, whether it's poor play or it's injury. Obviously, UCF led probably the industry in that practice last year. So I want to see a competition this spring. I want to see guys improving under McKenzie, Milton, and Scott Frost. And look, man, if you've got two guys who can do the job and you feel good about, we hear it. It sounds like Coach speaks so many times. Andrew's like, we feel good about all our quarterbacks, but we're going to go with Taven. No, like we know sometimes that's just them talking, trying not to crap on a guy. But development, QB development is something that I think comes at a premium in today's college football. And this is where I really think McKenzie Milton is going to shine. But look, you shine every week here on Locked On UCF. So before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Flattery will get you everywhere, but it won't get you everything. Anyway, you can catch me on Twitter /X or Blue Sky at StatBoyDrew. You can catch my writings on The Last Word on College Football, a part of The Last Word on Sports family.
Guys, thank you so much for making Locked On UCF your first listen of every day. For your second listen, go check out our friends at Locked On Big 12. Our guy Dre Toll is doing some great things over there. We want you to listen to him. You can find Locked On Big 12 on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us here tomorrow on Locked On UCF.